Good evening, TDN listeners, and of course, the audience of This Week in Interview. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Interview with your host and guide, Anthony Drago. It's always a pleasure. It's the highlight of my week to spend an hour or so with you on a Wednesday evening. And tonight is no exception. I'm particularly excited about tonight because my guest tonight is a very accomplished, I like to say young man, because when you see him, he's still full of vigor and energy and and creativity. And so I'm really looking forward to the conversation I'm going to have tonight with my guest, Mr. Sobers Esprit. And his background is all about community and community service and work in, in work in the community. I know I've said community 10 times, but that's what you think of when you think of Mr. Sobers. Um, he's originally from the West Coast. I'm going to say village because they call it Maho village, but Maho people swear that Maho is on the suburbs of Roseau. So he's from the suburbs of Maho. That's where he went to primary school at the Maho Government School. And then he went to the St. Mary's Academy, and we'll touch on that a bit because he's deeply involved in the reunion that's happening with the St. Mary's Academy, and also the drive to raise some funds and to bring into effect a project that is badly needed at the St. Mary's Academy, some physical upgrade and rehab to some of the buildings at the school at the St. Mary's Academy. Um, he has a Master's of Art in Rural Social Development from the University of Reading in the UK. And he studied journalism and mass communication at the University of Havana. And he also studied at journalism and communication at the Caribbean Institute of Mass Communication at Mona, Jamaica. His involvement has been in and around the youth, culture, media, and he's had a very illustrious career of service with the government and the people of Dominica, and also extending to the region, the Caribbean region, the OECS region. And so all of us who are from Dominica know Sobers, Mr. Sobers Esprit, and I'm super excited to be able to have a conversation with him tonight. And I am really also very excited about being able to share that conversation with you, both as a source of inspiration to young folks who are looking for a career and might be considering, a career as a lawyer, doctor, as only careers where you can make money. You can or have a successful career. I don't know how much money he's made, but he's certainly had success. Um, in his career, he's even received the Meritorious Service Award in 2023 from the government of Dominica for his long and stellar career as a man of the people. He's a writer, and he works in what he describes as the creative industry in the region. He's been involved in tourism. He's currently the deputy chairman of the Discover Dominica Authority. He's going to tell us a little bit more about himself. Um, he I hope, because he comes across as a very I wouldn't say subdued, but not someone that toots his own horn. But we're going to give him full license to tell us what he's done, what he's accomplished. For those of us who may not be familiar with his work or the details of his work, the extent of his work, and also for those folks who can learn from his experience and his accomplishments. So let me welcome, very well, ask you to join me to give a warm welcome to Mr. Sobers Esprit. Welcome, Sobers, to this speaking interview. It's a real pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for that, Mr. Drago, for that introduction. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you this evening. I've heard so much about TDN and your programming from my good friend in particular, Joseph Gis, my classmate. Tuti and I, we started St. Mary's Academy together. and I think we left about the same time. So we're very close friends, and I've heard lots of things about the work that you're doing. So I want to congratulate you on the work that you're doing. And you're my man as well. You know, you have connections with the community. Right. So
Definitely.
I'm happy to connect with you. Um, but yeah, it's always a pleasure to be able to share my own experience and my knowledge, about things. Boy, after all those years, I started way back, as a boy, raised in a small village of Maho, bathing in the sea, bathing in the river, going out picking mangoes and fishing. I used to love fishing on the rocks in Maho, just outside of Maho there, and doing things like that, playing cricket. I was heavily involved in cricket. I was part of a cricket club called the Cavaliers Cricket Club, and that was a lot of fun for me. But it was also a part of my upbringing, it's part of my own education. I was involved in a lot of youth activity. The pre-YCW, in those days, we used to have the YCW, which was the Young Christian Workers, and they had a youth arm called the pre-YCW. I started there as a young person and being part of that. And then we formed our own youth clubs when the YCW movement disintegrated. I became part of a number of youth organizations in Mao, and then later on I joined the National Youth Council. I worked with the National Youth Council, but for me, the great thing for me has always been, and the great joy of my life has been working in the community, doing things in the community. But culture and the arts have really been what has sparked my interest and my desire to build a better Dominica and to really work towards forging a better Caribbean civilization. And so for me, my whole life, I've dedicated my time, my energies, my education to the development of my community, the country, and the region in particular. I have never lived outside of Dominica except when I went to study. I have been out studying a few times, but I've always returned to live in Dominica. I've never wished to live anywhere else but in Dominica and the Caribbean. And so I am still in Dominica, still working for the region, still working for Dominica, and still working for the people of Maho. As you rightly pointed out, more recently I have been working more in the creative industries, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So professionally, my work is now really around the area of the culture and creative sector, or the creative economy, what we call it, creative economy. But I'm also involved in some tourism activities because between 1991 and 2010, I worked as a professional in the tourism sector in Dominica. I was deputy director of tourism. I acted as director of tourism for a couple of years. I worked as a specialist in community tourism. I supported an EU-funded project in Dominica. So I have done all of these things. But for me, the joy has always been working with the people, trying to see how we can forge ahead to build a better Dominica, more better Caribbean community, and that is my dream, that we should all lend our hand to building a future that is much more prosperous, that's much more equitable, that's much more just for all our people in the Caribbean, in particular. Of course, we want to see the same issues, that we tackle the same issues of justice, of equality across the globe. That is what we are all on this earth to do. And for me, it's about giving as well. I reached a stage in my life where I think it's important, really, it's critical that we look at giving back. We ought not to be looking selfishly about self. I find too often in our midst, we find that people tend to be looking more inwardly, more looking about themselves and their personal development, which is great. But I think it's also important to look at giving back and to making sure that we contribute to the development of our people.
That's great. I want to say good evening to our regular listeners. There's some folks, believe it or not, who come to us every Wednesday for the last
Mm,
12, 13 years. When they're not present, we miss them because they're staple. So I always shout out to them on my program, because there's one right there. It's Didi Easter every Wednesday. When she's not on the program, when I get off, I call to make sure that she's, or text to
mm,
make sure that she's good. So I'm always appreciative of that, and I never take that for granted. Uh,
mm,
there are some folks who are listening for the first time because you have your fans, and I'm sure
Okay,
there are
I
some
didn't do
folks
that.
who are listening because you are on tonight. And so my objective is to make them like enough what they see that they too become a regular guest. RVR Jams Radio carries this program live on
Okay.
DigiPlay channel 59 in Dominica Market. So folks view that live there. And we also would like to say a special evening to some folks in the Toronto market because online
Mm.
radio SBE carries this week in interview live in the Toronto market. And so good evening, folks. And even if you're not in Dominica, you're not in Toronto, you know you're always welcome. And a lot of our listeners are not able to listen live. And so they catch the program afterwards. We have our own YouTube channel. This week in interview, we have TDN Radio also has its YouTube channel. We have a tdntv.net for those that don't have Facebook. They go to tdntv.net and can look at the program there. We are on Instagram and Roku and all the other platforms. And we always encourage folks to give us a like, subscribe, make a comment, and just keep the activity going so that we can continue to grow the audience. But
Mm.
Mr. Esprit, I'm going to start the opening over. I know you're a cricket fan.
A big one, a
Big one.
massive cricket one. Well, I was named after the greatest of them all.
Exactly. So
You
that's
know,
right.
what
you,
to
you
tell you.
you think he's the greatest cricketer of all time, right?
Oh
All
yes,
rounder,
there's no question about that.
hands
There's
down, right?
no man, as Sparrow would have said in the song, no man on nobody on this earth or Mars is better than this Garfield Sobers.
That's a
No
guy.
matter if they scored more runs or took more wickets, he mastered everything. He mastered the arts of bowling, batting, fielding. You know,
Total dedication.
got great courtesy of the game. Fantastic cricketer he was.
So let's spend a couple. Not let, I don't want to fall into the trap of having you talk about one of your favorite topics, but last year, man, we were all so proud. There were a couple of young Dominican guys who made it to the West Indies team,
Mm-hmm.
and we were so proud. And they made us proud. They
Yeah.
performed. I mean, some folks might say they could. There's room for improvement. They were extremely young. It was their first year, and then this year, all of a sudden, they were left out. What would you
You know
comment
what? You
about
want
that?
me to give you my impressions about that?
Yes,
No, I mean, elite sport is a tough thing, and it's the result that matters. As you know, the West Indies has been doing really badly in the last, what, 20, 25, 30 years. And typically when a team does, as bad as we've been doing, the players tend to get the brunt of that. So it wasn't surprising that there was going to be some changes on the team. Clearly, we didn't expect both of the guys to have been dropped for the Australia tour. We expect at least one of them to have maintained their places on the team. So it's very unfortunate, but I think that they are young enough. They can go back. As Irving used to say, you go back, the score runs heavily, and then you push the open. That's what they have to do. Particularly Afanasi is a young guy. He's what, 26 years, and I think he still has a long future ahead of him. Kavem is a great professional. I mean, a seasoned cricketer, a solid individual. I would like to see him just work more on his game, produce some more, and he will get back on the team because they are quality cricketers.
they're quality cricketers. That's for
Yeah.
sure. That's for sure.
Yes.
Dominicans took it hard when their boys were not
Yeah.
selected.
But
Yeah,
the problem is, and I will say it here, that we don't play enough cricket in the Caribbean generally, and in Dominica we just don't play enough cricket. As a kid growing up, people play cricket all over Dominica. In
yeah.
every square inch of the island, people
Mm.
play cricket. That you drive throughout the island, you hardly see cricket. You don't see cricket on a Sunday. We play more white ball, what we call white ball cricket these days, T10 and T20. We hardly play red ball cricket. We used to have 2 and 3 day cricket matches in Dominica. The Cricket
Yeah,
Association used to organize the Augustus Gregor League. That's over 2 days. Now it's a day and a half. It's a day and a half. So we have to get back into the basics. If we are going to be successful regionally and internationally, And I say internationally for the West Indies and regionally for Dominican and the Windward, we have to go back to the basics and to do things based on the new reality. The new reality is different from 40 years ago, 50 years ago. When I grew up, we were self-motivated to play cricket and to play sports. You know, you didn't nobody had to push you to play sports. You did it because you love it. It was all around you. Today is different. So we have to have a different mindset. We have to have a different approach to how we develop sports and culture in the Caribbean and in Dominica. We have to develop programs that really reflect the times. So grassroots cricket, grassroots sports, at the community level, we have to invest more in the communities and more into the schools. You know, have help set up clubs. You know, help motivate young people, mentor those who have played before need to come back and mentor the youngsters. You know, so these are the kinds of things that we have to do. It's not going to happen by us telling think that if you put six stumps in St. Joseph or in Maho or in Collywood, that guy's going to come and play. No, it's going to require organization. It's going to require investment at the grassroots level, so that you have kids playing cricket again from all ages, on the 10, on the 15, on the 19, and at the higher level. And
Yeah.
that is what we have to do.
I'm so happy that that is the way you answered that question. And especially where you said, I think it's so natural in you that you said sports and culture.
Oh yes, yeah.
Because the same thing that you just said could also apply to
Oh
our
yes, the
arts,
arts,
our
the arts.
culture, and so on. And so, and the other thing that you said is that it's different now.
Oh yes, different times. We're living
It's
through different
different
times.
times.
Yeah,
And it has to be deliberately planned
that's right.
and well executed. It cannot just be, well, we happen to be lucky that somebody born under a perfect star and they happen to have the talent and maybe their family has the opportunity to allow them to play cricket and to buy gears for them. And so they rise up in the ranks. We have to deliberately plan it and have it as in our schools, so that just like how we do mathematics and science and any of those things, folks get exposed to it and the stars will naturally bubble to the top and take advantage of opportunities.
Yeah,
And so somebody like you is a perfect person to have that conversation with, because you not only worked in Dominica, you worked at that high level in the region,
yeah,
and you obviously has a passion for it. And
yeah.
so
I also did some work for the West Indies body, cricket body. So
exactly.
I was
So
involved in some cricket. So I know.
I want
Yeah,
to expand the conversation to
mm,
beyond cricket
yeah.
into theater
And the
and
arts.
various arts, the
Yes.
performing arts, the
Mhm,
visual arts, even our writing, all
mhm.
of it. Um, Put on your consultant hat. I know you're a practical person and you've actually been in the trenches. But if our government needs some guidance
Mhm.
in that regard, how would we go about starting to turn the tide so that we can have a, a, a society, a community that's producing sportsmen and artists and cultural professionals like yourself that fits into this current era that we
Yeah.
live in?
Yeah, I think the first thing that we have to recognize is that there has to be value attached to arts, culture, and sports. That we have to recognize these things as critical, as valuable assets to any society, any
Yeah,
developing, any developed society. The most developed societies in the world, they invest massively in the arts, massively in sports and culture. So that's the first thing, to value it, all right? So put a premium to it. That's one thing. The second thing to recognize that art and culture and sports are also important part of the new global economy, the new economy. You know, the fact of the matter is that 50 years ago, the world, the global community produced excessively what they call goods. So the it's a production in agriculture, output in manufacturing and industry, and so on. Today, in today's global economy has shifted much more. You see a global shift towards what we call knowledge and services. So the greater output, global output, is more in services, so digital, in knowledge, in entertainment, in sports, in culture. So for example, the creative in economy is worth billions of dollars, valued at billions of dollars. And that includes things like music, like film, fashion and design, visual arts, theater, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Same thing like sports. Sports is a multi-trillion dollar industry. I mean, you see what happened with the IPL. India has, in 18 years, demonstrated to the world that you could develop one sport and take it to that level. So it is massively important to recognize that we not only should invest in art and culture and sports because we love it, but it's because it's also an economic imperative for us that our economies, as we see a shift towards services and knowledge, and so we have to focus on those areas. It doesn't mean that goods will not form part of our economies, just like the United States. The current government in the United States say, hey, we want to invest in the production of manufactured items. So we want to bring back industries in the United States because we recognize that manufacturing is also important. But the United States economy, my friend, is heavily weighted towards services, heavily weighted towards knowledge. The United States has a huge surplus with the rest of the world when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to services, because that is where the global economy is shifted towards.
Right, right.
So,
You
so,
know,
so, so, that's the first thing. The foundation is understanding those imperatives.
the value.
One, that you have to value it. Two, that it has value in terms of the economy, in terms of the society. All right. In terms of young people, particularly young people that don't want to go into manual work and hard work. You know, that they want to use their minds, they want to use their creativity, their innovativeness to create, to produce, and to sensitize, to mobilize, and we can do that through art and education. So what going to call for? What it calls for is one is we have to have an operational shift in terms of how we organize those sectors. So we have to have ministries of government or departments of governments. So the first place in the public sector, the whole institutional framework has to change. So we should no longer be having ministries of sports and culture that is given to people who are less inclined or less able. We should have ministers of culture and ministers of sports who are among some of the brightest and the best in our governments. Yeah, so that's one thing. So the institutional arrangement have to be different. So we have to invest in quality people with the best skills working in those ministries. And so for the government, it also calls for new kind of investment and new thinking, new paradigm. So invest in education in those areas. So we need to see investment in schools. We need to see investment in the tertiary level in terms of in the arts and so on. Second thing is our ministry of finance have to look at, and ministry of trade have to look at how we work with those entities.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to support trade, export, promotion for the arts and culture. So there has to be a relationship between tourism, culture and trade to facilitate the export of our creative goods and services. The government also needs to look at giving incentives, a new kind of incentives to producers, to entrepreneurs, or what we call creative entrepreneurs in the sector. So the same way we're giving hoteliers and in agriculture, people in agriculture and manufacturers, we're giving them incentive, whether it's 10 years holiday, tax holidays or duty-free concessions or whatever. We need to look at the concessions to our creative entrepreneurs. We need to look at how we could look at incentivizing them through maybe special financial packages, financial mechanisms, like at the Aid Bank in Dominica, at some of the commercial banks, to look at attractive financial packages that can really help to get people to invest in the sector. So the government, at the public sector level, there are a number of things that can be done. So one, education. Two is the institutional framework. Three is looking at incentives, creating spaces. So we need to have incubators for production, for training, for development. Yeah.
Hmm.
So like factories then.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so
Incubators.
incubating.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So our musicians can practice, our designers can work through, the people who are producing goods, garments, the apparel people can do stuff. And our craft people can work freely without, problems and so on. So spaces, we need to look at spaces in the communities, cultural centers and cultural hubs, So things like that we have to invest in. We have to invest in trade promotions for the arts so we have to attend some of the film festivals and film things and music conventions, and so these are the things that we have to do. So the public sector has to do certain things, but at the industry level now there has to be a corresponding relationship between the public and the private sector, the business, the entrepreneurial sector. So one, people involved in the arts must understand that it shouldn't be seen as a hobby. So we should develop a entrepreneur's
Mindset.
mindset.
I
So
stick a pin in there quickly. I don't
yes.
want to interrupt your train of thought, but a prime example of that, Solas, is I live in New York, and when especially Labor Day time, the Dominican musicians come up, and lately you see bigger crowds and more support, things
Mhm.
that the musicians have always been crying for. And I can tell you that for the last 3 years, folks have been going to this one of the premier bands in Dominica, traditional premier bands, singing stars. I can call your name. It's not
Mhm.
anything. If they hear the comment and they can do something about it, it can only improve. And they announce a show for 9 p.m. and folks go there for the show for 9 p.m. and the band members walk in at midnight. The band members walk in at midnight, and a lot of these times the show can only go till 2 a.m. because generally you have a rule unless you have special permit, you have to end those kind of activities at 2 a.m. And so the
Mhm.
band walks in at midnight.
I know what you're talking about.
They take another hour to set up, and they
Mhm.
come on and they play three songs, and then it's time for them to go because it's 2 a.m.
Yeah,
And then they expect you to show up next year and the following year just because
yeah,
you are Dominican and because
yeah.
they are a Dominican band.
Mhm.
And the idea is no, yes, and they have a good product.
Yeah.
When they play the free songs they play, it's high level and very entertaining. They have a good product,
Because
but
but it's more than that.
you just don't have the
It
opportunity
requires
to.
much more than that.
Yeah, because
It
you
requires
show up for a show that starts at 9 o'clock, and the real meat of the show doesn't even get on
yeah.
until one
So
a.m.
but the entrepreneurial mindset starts way before that, eh?
I know,
It
but I'm
starts
saying
way,
that
I
is
know, I
one of
know, I
the
know, I know.
impact of it.
The
Yeah,
output is a big part of it. So what you deliver is also critical. It's just like if you're working in the apparel sector. If you're producing garments, you have to produce quality garments, or else people are not going to buy it. If you're producing craft, it must be quality craft. If you're producing film, it must be. So the quality issue has to be paramount because there is an imperative for us to deliver high quality because we are competing in a global marketplace. We're not competing against ourselves. That's something people must understand. You know, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, Dominica was a little island nobody knew about. And so we used to sell everything, among ourselves and maybe a few islands, except we sell banners to the UK and so on. But most things we sold in Dominica or in some of the islands, maybe go St. Martin or St. Thomas. Today we sell things all over the globe. And so we have to that means we have to compete with people who are much more highly skilled, who have critical mass, who have massive investment in capital and so on, and that can outshine us. And so the way we have to do it is be more competitive and
we have to be competitive. To take your example further, you can provide great apparel, but
yes.
if you have a tailor that's depending on you to supply them cloth so he can make suits and dresses for his clients, and every time he come to collect apparel from your business, it's not ready, or you have to deliver it to him, you deliver it to him 2 weeks late, you killing his business and by extension killing your
Yeah.
business. And that is the entrepreneurial part of it, because the
Yes.
creative is one, but
That's
the
right.
business sense
That's right. The
is
business sense
quite
is
another.
critical. That is what will drive the business. That's what will sustain the business. That is what will make you be profitable, viable, and so on. So it's important. So, but the entrepreneur mindset started one,
Hmm.
that you have to set up a business. So you have to register a business.
Yeah.
You have to already set up a business. That's the first thing. Okay, get a business, go to registrar, get yourself organized, because nobody does business if you nowadays if you have not a business. That's the first thing. The second thing is we have to look at issues of intellectual property. We have to so we have to look at um, brand development. We have to look at our brand. We have to develop our brand, or copyright them, and so on. So all of those things, and as you say, the issue of quality, the issue of how we deliver, consistently high quality, and that is for any industry. That is not just for the arts. That is also a matter of survival, a matter of sustainability. That's we have to look at, and quality. And in today's world, we have to look at the use of technology. I mean, the technology that is available to us. Some, we might say that AI has disrupted a lot of industry, but it is there, and it is there to stay. And so, what do we have to do to ensure that we use it for the good of our industry? The use of technology and is going to be critical for you to compete in this global marketplace. For the creative industries, also we have to look at the issue of copyright. Um, so because that is the bread and butter creative creatives generally. So musicians and other producers have to have their works copyrighted, so that long after they produce a piece of work, they can earn from that. And for us as consumers, we have to recognize that we have to support them. And so when you hear people say, "But why should you be paying, for copyright for a musician after you pay him to go to a dance?" No, it's much more than that. That is intellectual property. You have to pay for the intellectual property long after. So that also is an important element of the development of the creative arts in our country, in our region. So intellectual property and intellectual property development is critical going forward. We have gone somewhere in that, but it's still we have a long way to go in terms of educating, first of all, the artists, and educating the consumers, educating the
Right.
public about it.
That's the thing.
So yes, so I was saying that.
Uh-huh.
So at the public sector level, there are some key things that the governments have to do, and I outlined some of them. And I was saying also at the micro level or the industry level, there are issues that are of concern, and that of necessity, that the artists and the creative entrepreneur must pay attention to. So I was saying, setting up your entrepreneurial mindset, also education. Education doesn't have to be about going to college like me. It's about the self-development, personal development. Sometimes you may have to go to college. Sometimes we have to specialize. So in areas, things like fashion and design, because these are new industries, you have to get skilled in those areas. So if we want to have a viable and globally competitive fashion industry, we need to have more people study design and design management. So that is of necessity. If you want to build a strong film and gaming sector, we have to have much more training in those areas. So
Hmm.
so 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 education is going to be a key part of moving forward. The other thing is working together, partnerships, collaboration. So setting up of associations and networks, also important in this enterprise. Again, it's because these are infant industries and new industries, and it requires much more collaborative effort, much more networking, for it to be successful. Mentorship. Those of us, or the persons who have gone before, need to be mentoring younger people, need to give back their time. I said that at the start of the program. we have to give back, and that is a way that our creatives, so the musicians, for example, who went belong before the current ones, should be working with young musicians and helping them in understanding the whole the nuance of the industry, and helping them to build to going forward. Of course, young people now, they have their own understanding of the industry, of the new music industry, how they want to see it, how they want to position it. But we have people who have gone before us, understand the pitfalls, understand some of the challenges that they face, and can help in bringing that to young people. So these are some of the things that we require to do. I mean, these are not all, but these are just some of the elements that we have to pay attention to. So one is the governments doing certain things, but two, the industry, what they call at the micro level, recognizing that you have a role to play. So it's not just you playing a guitar, or you're making a film, or you are making a piece of garment. It requires much more than that. It requires an understanding of the industry that or the subsector that you're working in, and how you can play your part in being much more much more innovative, and much more successful.
So it goes back to the way you started the whole conversation, is a recognition of the value
Yes,
of the art, so that folks can see it as a contributor to GDP,
that's
a
right.
contributor to life, to earnings, to economic independence, as much as farming or working
Tourism.
in a factory or
Yes,
producing it. We have to come to the point where we can realize that part of our human resource is the talent of our people,
that's
and
right.
therefore we have to organize it as a specific, its own special sector in the economy. So, but I'm pushing up really hard against our break. So I'm going to
Yes.
take a break, hear from
Mhm.
our sponsors. When we come back, I'm going to take some comments. We have some comments and questions
Yeah.
from the audience. I think we can address it. And
Yes.
then we're going to talk about some of the things that you were involved with,
Mhm.
the Alwyn Bully Foundation, the SMA reunion, and some of these other topics that you are currently involved with. And so let's take a quick break, folks. We'll be right back. My guest tonight is Mr. Sobers Esprit. I mean, you can only describe him as a community man, but he's also an avid sportsman, a writer, a cultural an expert in the creative industries, and he's worked in many capacities that gives him the authority and the qualifications for having the conversation that we're having tonight about his achievements, about his accomplishments. We're picking his brain in terms of ideas in this new economy. What can we do as we see the struggles of our young people trying to get traction? They're doing a lot on their own, but how can we facilitate it? How can we have more predictable outcomes and all of that? I think we have the perfect guest tonight in Mr. Sober's Esprit to explore some of those questions and some of those ideas. So we're going to be right back. Just stay tuned so we can say thank you to our sponsors.
Presented by
People say I've got a great smile. Well, I have to say, this is all thanks to the professional team at Beacon Dental Group right here in Dorchester, Massachusetts. I've got world-class dental care. Beacon Dental Group has expert and caring staff dedicated to providing the most advanced and satisfactory treatment in all aspects of oral health. Their services are designed to meet your needs and give you a perfect smile, too. General checkups, cosmetic surgery, Gemini laser service, and advanced procedures, all in a state-of-the-art facility. Call or visit Beacon Dental Group today, 1026 Blue Hill Avenue, Dorchester, Massachusetts, or call 617-282-2146. for a smile that lights the world.
A smart house run by a vengeful AI, a mute witness to an act of unspeakable evil. A breadfruit thief is haunted. A young man unwittingly creates a god. Giant crapos terrorize a community. A witch seeks revenge on her neighbors, and much more. The Piton Noir Writing Collective is thrilled to announce the release of the third book in their acclaimed anthology series, The Flying Crapo. Flying Crapo, Heroes and Monsters. Now available for purchase on Amazon.com. Get your copy today and embark on a journey filled with heroes, monsters, and the magic of the Caribbean.
Hey y'all, I just discovered an amazing plugin called Joan, Jock on Air Now, for managing my radio station's on-air schedule. It keeps your visitors updated on what's playing and when their favorite hosts are live. Trust me, Joan is the best choice for your WordPress site. There's a free version available in the WordPress repository, and it's definitely worth trying. If you want even more features, Joan Premium lets you easily edit your schedule with just a click. No need to delete and re-add shows. Don't miss out on Joan. Get it now from the WordPress plugins repository or visit the developers at gndenterprisesinc.com for more info.
Get ready for an electrifying thriller. A fearless New York attorney takes on corrupt corporate giants fighting for the powerless. Can this seasoned attorney and his team take down a monstrous company and its powerful leader? What will be the final verdict? What price will our heroes pay? Find out as you turn the pages of The Trust by Sam George. Get your copy of The Trust today from Amazon.com.
Looking to promote your business, engage current customers, and reach new people? Well, look no further. From the basic presentation to a fully fledged advertisement, use your video ads to attract customers. At Man's Audiovisual Productions, we do just that. We produce videos for business and event promotions, product demo videos, animated explainer videos, fundraiser ads, and much, much more. Engage your clients and sell online. We customize the video to match your brand design. Guaranteed to play flawless on all devices, including smart TVs. Contact us at telephone number 203-690-4342 or 767-245-6238. Visit our website, mansaudiovisual.com, or email us at derekvideo@gmail.com.
Welcome back, folks, and thanks for staying with us through the commercial break. We have a pretty interesting range of products that we present to you from our sponsors. I want to take a quick minute to just recognize the folks in the audience. As I said, Didi East says a regular good evening to you, and always a pleasure to have you. Owen as well. Owen Prosper is always locked in. Catherine in Montserrat. I hope you're feeling much better. I think you all are 100% mended now. So great to have you on. Sophs, Drago as well. Good evening to you, Phil Sina, Bertrand, and who else? We have Pyro. We have a few. Of course, bear in mind, I can only see those who comment because I'm not on the general broadcast. But for those of you who make comments, all of those of you who do not make comments, I hope you are enjoying the program. Uh, my guest tonight is Mr. Sobers Esprit from Dominica, from the village of Maho, but he really belongs to the region. He's done a lot of work in the cultural space and the creative space. And we started off, we did the first hour of the program just talking about the importance that the arts and the culture plays in our islands. And sometimes I think we get distracted and the signals come out. I'm calling them signals that sort of hint that we don't necessarily recognize the true role that art and sports and culture plays, even on the soft level, just in terms of the development of our people. But as Mr. Esprit said, is beyond that now. It's actually multi-trillion-dollar industry that if we were to engage it properly and organize it properly, it could really make a significant contribution to GDP. And you know what I like the most about it? As an environmentalist, as a tree hugger, as I describe myself, I think the arts and sports and culture gives us a clean industry that we can develop and produce and still maintain mostly the pristine nature of our island, and so and we can save our island to be able to pass it on 2 and 3 generations down the road, because we're not really producing any waste products. I mean, yeah, in the printing of stuff and so on, and even now we don't even have a lot of ugly waste products from a print tree house the way we used to have it, because now everything is digital. Our equipment, there's hardly any impact on the environment. So it would be perfect industry for Dominica, where we would want to really brand ourselves as an eco tourism destination, as a people who are super, super sensitive to the environment. And that would help us because we have the indigenous people of the region still managing to survive in Dominica. We have 365 rivers with the best quality water on earth, flowing in hundreds of millions of gallons um, uh, every day, and it's in really, really pristine conditions. And so we definitely would want to explore clean industries, and I think the arts and the sports and culture gives us the opportunity to do that. And not only that, I definitely think we have a relative advantage. You can just look at the amount of music that comes out of Dominica, the quality of the music, and even nowadays that we are producing our own videos, we see the quality of the videos that rank and can compete on any level whatsoever. We see it. We just know we have a relative advantage in Dominica in that regard, and so we got a lot of input from Mr. Esprit on that. But I want to pivot a little bit. Uh, but I before we jump, no, we'll come back to it because I want to give us enough time to deal with some of these items that you are personally currently involved with. And I know two of them that we spoke about, well, three of them, your involvement in the Maho community is one, the Alwyn Bully Foundation is two, and the work that you're doing with your fellow past um, students, past boys of the St. Mary's Academy, some of the St. Mary's Academy alumni uh, have been working on coming together to have a reunion, but not just for the sake of having a reunion, but to be able to marshal the resources, the vast intellect resources of all of the young men who went through SMA, and all of that big brain that SMA was able to help develop in their boys. And that went on to further that and to make accomplishments. You're trying to bring that back together. So let's talk about those things. You can talk about them in any order. Your
Mhm.
involvement in the SMA alumni,
Yeah.
the Alwyn Bully Foundation, and your continued community work, particularly as it relates to your community of Mao.
Yeah. So let me start with the SMA reunion. This reunion was really conceived by um, alumni from the class of 1975, 1974, 1975. You're talking about 50 years ago.
Yeah,
These are the
time
guys who
flies.
graduated 50 years ago. Can you imagine that?
Time flies. Yeah.
How time flies. So that was that is the original source of that reunion. Unfortunately, I have to say that I don't think that we've had a previous reunion effort by SMA alumni. So this may very well be one of the first efforts. And so we wanted to count. We really wanted to count. And as you rightly pointed out, this is really a call to action by SMA, former SMA students, or what you say, alumni. So the class of 74, 75. So we're talking about guys who would have started SMA in 1969 and 1970. And so primarily the reunion is for guys who started 69, 70, primarily. However, the call is for SMA students or SMA alumni generally. So if you went to SMA and you can contribute to the cause, we want you to contact us, be part of this reunion. As I say, the reunion is a call to action for the school, for Dominica, for the world. Because many of us have lived and worked overseas. Many of us have remained in Dominica, and many of us have contributed directly to the school. So we have set up a program of activities for a 1 week period between October the 11th to the 18th. We have in there a number of social activities. So we're doing a tour of major attractions or major sites in Dominica. So particularly that would be particularly for those who are living overseas now. So that alumni is from the diaspora. So if you're coming back after how many years, we will give a little tour to see some of the things that you have taken for granted, whether it be Emerald Pool or the Kalinago territory or some of the developments on the North Coast and so on. But it will be a nice tour for us to just enjoy each other's company and to see Dominica in a fresh and new light. So that's one thing. The second thing is we are doing a morning assembly with the SMA students, current SMA students, where we'll be donating or delivering equipment, sporting equipment, and so forth to the students at the school. The other thing that we're doing is we're doing an educational forum. We are working with the University of the West Indies Open Campus, that is the global campus, Dominica, and we are doing an evening of education where we're going to be focusing on the future of education. Yeah, because we feel that it's critical. This is really important because we are in the 21st century. We went to school in the 20th century. So the education dynamics is very different then than it is now. So our thinking is, let us discuss what is the new dynamics for education in Dominica and in the wider world. What kind of education do we require today to build this new economy, to build this new society, and to expand on the civilization of thousands of years in this part of the world. So education that looks at science and technology, that looks at STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths, which is the critical thing now. But we want to, and so since I am involved, I put an A in between. So it is STEAM.
Yeah.
So it is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics.
Exactly.
Because arts, as we have been saying over the last few minutes, is critical. So we want to look at that kind of education that looks at that. So that's one part of the dynamics, but also in terms of critical thinking, for example, how do we teach? How do we train? How do we build minds to think critically in the 21st century? How do we train? How do we build minds to be global citizens? How do we train and build minds to forge new alliances in the global south so that we can make our countries in the south, in the global south, much more prosperous, much more vibrant? So I'm talking about building this with Africa, for example. We've seen some movements in that direction. I think this week we had Caribbean or CARICOM leaders in I think that's Nigeria, one of those countries, attending the AfriBank conference in Africa. So there are some efforts in there, but we need to move to advance those conversations. We need to advance the action on that. And so we need to train and develop minds that can take that forward, because this generation will not be able to accomplish a lot of those things because it requires a lot of hard work. The trade, the transportation, and all of this diplomatic engagements and so on. So we want to have a conversation around those themes, those various themes, and how we look at education, how we frame the conversation for a new kind of paradigm for education. And we understand that there is an effort at the national level. The Prime Minister actually has been calling for education reform in Dominica. I know that there was some conversation that happened about 2 weeks ago at the State House. So we want to be part of that conversation about going forward. So that's one of the activities that we'll be doing. I'm really looking forward to that. We have about 5 speakers. I can't disclose speakers as yet, but we have about 5 speakers. from all different backgrounds, all SMA alumni, one in education, couple in business, one in science, and so on. Then the other thing is we will be doing a night of music. We must have music. We must have some fun. So we're going to go down to Lale Coco, and we're going to be featuring a lot of our music, particularly the music of the 70s and our time. Linford John is a key member of the reunion committee, and he's one of the greatest calypso artists ever from Dominica.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
And so we'll be hoping that Miguel and his crew will be featuring a lot of the reggae and but also calypso and bouillon music from Dominica, so that we can reflect and of course the nostalgia of that time as well for that night. And for us, the big one is a concert. We are doing a big concert on the Friday of the week. That is the 16th, I believe, 16th of October. We are doing an all SMA concert, all boys concert. So all the performers will be all boys. And if you think of the guys who was featured heavily in Dominican music and Dominican music history, Gordon Henderson, Fitzroy Williams, this is
Jeff Joe.
Dice. No, Jeff Joe is not SMA.
Oh, Jeff Joe didn't go to SMA. He went to grammar
school. Grammar school. So
that's
how you call his name. Dice, Shirley. I mean, Cornell Phillip. We have the greatest from Dominica. Don't want to be boastful, but
well, I'm a grammar school boy, but I'll let you have your moment in the song.
Oh, exactly. we produce the greatest musicians in the country. That is I don't think all you produce better cricketers, maybe. Well, yes, cricketers and sports people, but in terms of music, we are the champions. We produce Gordon Henderson, so it will be a concert to raise funds. That will be the biggest fundraiser for the week. That's one of the major items for raising funds for the repair works on the Brother Egbert Jimin wing at the St. Mary's Academy. So we're hoping to get massive support from not just SMA community, but Dominicans as a whole to support that initiative. So it will be a big concert on the Friday evening, and we're excited about that. So we have been planning on that. The team is led by Linford John and includes Wackers, Ashton Luge, Cornell Phillip, and myself. So we are doing that concert to raise funds for SMA. And then we're hoping to do a morning where we meet the press and just chat about the issues, what it meant to be, an SMA old boy or SMA alum, and to see, talk about the future of our country, because we think that we still have a lot more to give. So that is the SMA reunion in a nutshell. And so we've been planning over the last several months. There's a team led by Alvin Thomas and Damien Dublin. So Alvin Thomas is the main coordinator, and Damien Dublin is the coordinator based in Dominica, and it's supported by a team of a number of other guys. Joseph is, should I start calling names now?
But you can give them contact information where they can get more information. If you have an email address or Facebook page or.
Yeah, we have a Facebook page, so it's SMA Reunion Facebook page. So
and they can they can go there, get most of the information. Yes. And if they didn't know you, they can contact you and get that, or Alvin or
that's right,
or Joseph Gist and so on.
Yes,
so from October 18th, 11th to the
18th
of 2025.
Yes.
The alumni, SMA alumni, I'm going to say the SMA alumni reunion.
One of the things we encourage, if you're a former SMA student, that is, you don't have to be from the 74, 75, and you're coming to Dominica from the diaspora, contact us and be part of that. So you can support some of the activities, because the funds that we raise from all the activities going to go directly into the school fund as well. Okay?
No, definitely. So we wish you all the best with that. You want to talk about the Alwyn Bully Foundation?
Okay, so the Alwyn Bully Foundation is something that's dear to my heart, because Alwyn Bully was a mentor, a teacher to me, in a massive way. We were very close friends. He happened to have been the godfather of my daughter, my only child. And I learned later on, that he is from the Esprit clan as well. He was from the Esprit grant.
Wow.
So more than one reason to hold this man dear. Alvin was a tremendous Dominican, tremendous Caribbean personality, an icon in many ways. You talk about a quintessential Caribbean personality, Caribbean man. He definitely was that. I mean, a brilliant mind. He was an innovator, creator in so many different ways. An artist in every aspect of it. He was a carnival man. He was a theater man. He was a choreographer. He wrote songs. He was a painter, and I think if Alwyn could do probably the graphic arts, probably in his later years, anything to do with the arts, this man conquered that. So he was, in fact, to me, one of Dominica's greatest artists who ever lived. So we are trying to carry on continue his work, build on his legacy, and so a foundation was established right after his death. It's led by Severin Mackenzie, a grammar school boy like you. Hardworking. Let me just give a shout out to Sev. Sev is a
Yeah.
brother to me because Sever and I, we were part of the movement for cultural awareness in our teens. And so he's the chair of the Olin Body Foundation. So some of the things that we currently involved in. So one is we actually working with the La Coup des Arts Theatre Group to bring back or to restage the Olwyn's 1975 play, The Strick. So it's 50 years, the 50th anniversary of that play. The play is going to be shown in Dominica in November.
What's the title of the play?
Strick, Streak, Strick.
Okay.
Yes, so that was first stage at the St. George's Hall in 1975. And it was set against the background of the Dominica situation, the trade, Black Power time, and so on. So so we are working with La Coup des Arts to put on that play. Mackenzie is actually directing that play, and we're hoping to come to the United States at some point in 2026. So we'll talk to you about that
So make
at some
sure,
point.
yeah,
We'll talk
I'm
to you
pretty
about that.
interested in that.
No, it's important for us to do that. We have to take that work outside
Yeah.
of Dominica.
I have actually brought Alex Bruno to New York on 2 occasions to stage
So
a
we
couple
hoping
of
to work
his
with Alex
plays.
on that project
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So we're doing strict. So that's one. The other thing, well, which is for me though, it's closer to me, is carnival. We have developed a really strong interest in really looking at the carnival arts, and in particular reference to traditional masquerades. And that was something that was there to Alwyn. And so Anita, his widow, and myself, we have been championing that area. So we've done a couple of things. In 2023, we actually got a grant from the Creative Caribbean to do a residency. We had a 10-day residency, and that was held at the Old Mill. And we had tutors from Trinidad, from New Orleans, and from Martinique, and local participants. And so they worked together for 10 days. And the finished product was shown during the carnival of the following year across Dominica in some of the communities from which we had the participants. So Maho, Portsmouth, Grand Bay, Newtown, St. Joseph, Dublin, and so on. So what we're looking at is to build on that. So last year, for 6 weeks, we worked with secondary schools. We worked with about 3 secondary schools: St. Mary's Academy and St. Martin's School and the Convent High School, in a 6-week training program to build sense of costume with young people. So they actually built the costumes. So we had a group of trainers led by Daryl Phillip, and they worked with the students and they built their own costumes. And they came out on Carnival Tuesday. We had about 12 to 15 students participating with Thunderbird on Carnival Day in sense costume, in different styles of sense costume. Some with rope, some with the crocker's bag, some with piping, which is it's a creation of itself. And currently, we're going to be doing some work with the Girl Guides Association to do another training during the summer to again help them to develop an appreciation, first of all, and of course to build the costume. Because the idea is to get more of our traditional masquerade into the carnival. Because if we're talking about the real mask, we want the real mask to be different. We want to differentiate Dominic's
The
carnival.
old mass, yeah.
Yes.
If I can put a suggestion there is I grew up in Castlebrose,
Okay.
and we had carnival was strong in Castlebrose. We had
Mm.
bands, and we used to rehearse months before carnival. We would be rehearsing at the various band halls, and there was friendly competition. Sometimes not so friendly competitions among the band houses, but what one of my memories of carnival is that on Carnival Day, you get a band movie from we used to call them the Caribs at the time,
Yes.
but the Kalinago people used to run a different kind of mass.
Yes. Yeah.
And when they come through the village of Castlebrose, no matter how bad your band is, you have to go on the
Run.
side of the road.
You have to run.
You don't, they not run because they not really interfering if you
No,
stay
no,
out
no.
of
I
their
mean, I know.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yes.
you
Yes.
have to step
Yeah.
aside,
We always step aside.
and Castlebrose Road is taken over by the band movie from the Carib territory, and they would come through the Castlebrose thing. They would go by Mr. Austria, buy whatever rum or whatever they buy, and they take their band movie and go back to Carib territory. So
Yes. Yeah.
some opportunity there
Oh
too.
yes. So here's what we're looking at. So we have a bigger vision for that. So the bigger vision is to have a stronger presence, let's say, in the carnival with traditional masquerade forms. But we want to institutionalize that. We want to commercialize that. Hey, the thing have to make money, The thing must be viable.
Yeah.
Carnival is an industry. It cannot be that in 2025, 2026, that people are doing carnival because they like it.
Mhm.
In Trinidad, in New Orleans, in Rio, and so on, in New York, and so people make big money out of carnival. And so we think that we have an industry. We can build an industry around
Or
traditional
mass.
carnival.
Yeah.
World mass. So what we plan to do is one, we want to have a home. We want to have a base. That's the first thing. A base to produce, a base to exhibit, a base to sell, and to distribute costumes. That's one thing. Secondly, we want to produce a great variety of carnival, traditional carnival costumes. So it's not just sensei. So we want to do sensei, we have to do band movie,
Uh-huh.
social sui,
Futsal Sui
and
and
so
so
on and
on.
so
Yeah.
forth.
Hmm.
And we are working with Discover. We're going to be working with Discover Dominic Authority. Um, we are looking at getting some support from or accessing support from a corporate entity to be able to do some of that work. But the thinking is over a period of time, we want to have at least 100 of those costumes in the carnival to create a big impact, a
Right.
big impression. So that's one part. But it's the Dominica part. But we also want to take it on the road as well. We want to take the carnival to the same way the Trinidadians are going all over and really selling the carnival. So come to New Orleans. So I have developed a relationship with the New Orleans Carnival through the work that I have done with the OAS. And so there is some opening there for us to build some relationship with New Orleans Carnival. But also our diaspora carnivals, New York, Toronto,
Miami,
London, and so
Toronto,
on,
Atlanta.
Atlanta,
Mhm.
and so on. So we have a presence there. So people can, we can see how we can promote Dominica. That's one thing. So that could be a way to promote the island, but also a form to get these people who are creators, who are innovators of the form to earn from it, by showcasing it. You understand?
Yeah.
So that is a vision. That is a greater vision for the carnival part for the New Orleans Bully Foundation. But we're also looking at building a theater institute. We want to have a theater institute where you can train young people in theater arts because currently we do not have no. I mean, I'm not unaware that we have any thriving theater groups now. Steve Hyacinth and his group has been the leading theater group for a long time. So what we want to do is to build on whatever exists now, but there's very little theater going on in Dominica, except maybe some of the schools they teach they do some theater for CXC. Again, so it will help us to be able to prepare them better. So the Theatre Institute will help to train a new cadre of secondary school students and young people generally in the wider community to act to direct, to do technical work, to write, and so on. So that is the thinking of the institute, and hopefully we can see some new groups coming out of that. So another people's action theatre of some kind will emerge out of that. And so there are a few other things that we're doing. The foundation also wants to publish some of Halloween's work. Halloween has I mean left a lot of work, unpublished works, short
Wow.
stories and poetry and so on. Last year we did a whole night of his music alone. I don't know if you heard about that. We did a night where we featured only Alwyn songs written by
You mean
Alwyn,
like calypsos?
calypsos, and not just calypso, even some pop numbers, pop infused numbers and so on.
Hmm.
The songs written by Alwyn Moody and performed by Dominican singers, backed up by a band led by Cornell Phillip. And it was a one night only show. So that's the kinds of things that we want to do.
So I would invite you to involve TDN Media in that,
Okay.
because we're very interested in that. And not only that, the resources that we bring to the table, we have the ability to do pay-per-view, we have the ability
Okay.
to live stream, and all of those things. So
So
if you,
we'll have a offline
yeah,
conversation on that.
just keep us involved with something.
Yes.
It's right down our alley. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So these are some of the things that we're hoping to do. We were looking at scholarships, the possibility of scholarships. We want to talk to the government about maybe giving at least one scholarship a year to a deserving young person that want to study in the arts, any area of the arts, whether it be theater. It doesn't have to be theater. It could be in set design. It could be in fashion design. It could
Production
be
of
dance,
documentaries. We need to be document as we're
production.
losing some of our icons. We really need some documentary folks to
Well, I can tell
represent.
you that is the film sector is an area that I have been working in over the last several years. So currently, I am actually doing some work with a regional film network, film and media network. So you talk about being an environmentalist, so that has interested me. So we've just submitted a proposal to do a regional film accelerator program that would allow us to train and to build a cadre of filmmakers. Well, I wouldn't say a cadre of filmmakers because we know some of the people already because we've worked with them. But the idea is to sensitize them because we want them to focus on a particular theme to produce short films. So the project is going to be, if we can get the funding to do that, to sensitize Caribbean filmmakers to look at the environment. So particularly the issue of climate change. As you know, climate change is the biggest existential threat facing our region. And so we think that our filmmakers and our artists should, in fact, look at how they can use their talent and their tools to transform our societies. So we are looking at how we can support at least free short films by Caribbean filmmakers to promote and to sensitize our Caribbean audiences and people generally across the world about the issue of climate change in our region.
So I'm going to, if you look at the comment I just put on it is by a brother. He is originally from St. Lucia. He's based in the U.S. Brother Ed Umoja Ullman. He's a film producer,
Right.
and he does a film festival in St. Lucia. I think he does it annually, but I'm not quite sure if he's like how recent he's done it. And we've attempted to collaborate in the past, so he would be a good contact. And of course,
Okay.
you know of Catherine Dorset, Catherine Helena
Mhm.
Dorset.
Yes.
She has written the books Fire on Monstrance.
Yes.
So
Yes.
right,
I
and
think
so
Helena would have probably participated in one of the training programs that I would have organized at the
at
OECS.
the OECS, and
Yes.
so there has been an attempt to collaborate with Brother Ullman on producing some film. So we do have some resources,
Yeah.
connect networks. She said is Peter International Film Festival is the
Yes.
festival that
Yes. I know.
Peter,
I know the guys who doing that.
right.
Yes.
So this is the guy, Brother Ed
Yeah.
Umuja.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we do
So
have
yes.
some resources. Yeah.
So these are some of the things that the Alwyn Bully Foundation is involved in and hope to really champion going forward.
Mhm.
And of course, advocacy work. We want to be, a major voice to advocate for the development, or investment in the sector going forward. So part of what we do is we engage the Ministry of Culture. We have had conversation with the minister and her staff, technical staff, on some of the issues, and we're hoping that we can help to influence policy going forward.
Yeah. I know our hour has expired, but
Yeah.
since you're on the ground, is one of my so there are a couple of things that are of major concern. I'm going to jump off from Pyro's comment that he says that you have mentioned
Somebody said
architecture.
architecture. Yeah.
Yeah, also part of the ask. But in answering that, I want you to talk about our
Yeah.
library and the Iraq House of Culture.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Yeah. Well, I mean,
What's going on? What's
clearly,
going on there?
clearly the build heritage is an important part of what we support, and so the preservation of the build heritage is critical. So we're talking about tangible and intangible cultures. Tangible meaning things like build, thing, architecture, and so on. So yes, we think that it's important for us to preserve and maintain those the vernacular, the Creole vernacular in our architecture. We're seeing it disappearing more and more. There used to be an association to promote the Creole vernacular in our architecture in Dominica, called SHIP. That is no longer there, and so frankly, we need to have some more sensitization in terms of architecture in regards to Dominica. Yeah, because we're losing that,
Yeah, because
and we
we
see
don't understand the value. Coming
no,
to the
they see the
first word
value,
that
the
you
value.
mentioned, value.
Yes,
Because we don't see the value, we lose it easily.
yes.
So we bulldoze a building that has historical
And
significance.
we build monstrosities that hurts and uncomfortable for us to live in. And
Mhm.
is it for when the next big hurricane comes to destroy them? We saw that happening in Maria, during Maria time.
Right.
A lot of big buildings, this just dismantled by the hurricane, and some of the old buildings, we
That
stood
were built with no nails,
you
no
know,
metal nails,
yeah.
no, yeah,
Yeah, so
all
so
wood
so so
nails.
the Creole vernacular in the architecture is an important part of it. It's not an area that I have really worked into much, but as a promoter of the arts, as somebody who advanced for the need for us to preserve our tangible heritage, it is for me an important element of the work that we must do with our.
So what's going on in our House of Culture?
Okay,
Are you
so
familiar with that?
so yes, because I am also a member of the National Cultural Council. So the government has invested in the redevelopment of the refurbishment of the Arabic culture. The final word is that it should be ready for the summer, by the end of the summer, hopefully, for independence. There is an assurance being given that work will be completed in time for us to have shows at the Arabic House of Culture. So some of the work on the roof that was a big problem has been completed. So there's some internal work to be done, and they're hoping to do some facelift at the front of the buildings. So our hope is that we can finally have the Arabic House fully restored and operational by October for in the independence celebration.
And did creative people like you, the folks who are familiar, did you guys get an opportunity to have input in whatever is being done in terms of design to
Some
make sure
input,
that
yes, like I say, yes, the All Body Foundation have actually spoke with the minister, but a lot of that was already in train.
Hmm,
So our input was to get them to fast track some of the things, to
yeah.
get it had to happen, make it happen, because some of this is already taken by the time we got involved.
Yeah,
So
because after we wait so long and we
yeah,
spend the money,
exactly.
we hope we get a state of the art in terms of
No, we're not
acoustics
gonna
and
get a state of the art.
lighting. No, not in terms of acoustics and lighting and
Well,
ambience,
yes,
all
they will
that.
put
Yeah.
yes, some investment in lighting and sound and so on. But
Mm.
I don't know what you mean by state of the art. State of the art
Well, yeah,
can mean different things to different people. But yeah,
that when somebody stands on the stage, they can project and they can get a
mhm,
curtain drop and you can get just the basic stuff.
yes,
That
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
I hope
yes,
that
yeah.
is built in.
Our hope is that will happen, but I don't think
Yeah,
we will see that at the beginning. I think what we'll see is, I mean, at least a refurbishment
a,
of
a refurbished building
yes, a
where you
refurbished
can
building
you can go in
that
and
can
watch a play or
that's right.
what.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
okay.
hopefully with some pressure and some persuasion, we can get them to do some of the things that we really want them to do. So, for example, we are interested in seeing the front part of the artwork really develop further and make it more attractive, as you say, aesthetically pleasing. But there's some way to go on that.
Hmm. All right. What else?
Maho, Maho,
Maho.
man, yeah.
Go ahead. Let's talk
So
about Maho.
there are two critical things for me in Maho. All right, one is um, again my belief in the arts as an important tool for community development. So we've set up a foundation, an art foundation, and our thinking is to from music in the first place, from music, the development of music, to set the stage for a rebirth, a musical rebirth in the community. As you know, you from Maho.
Bells Congo.
We
Bells
had one of the
Congo.
best
Yeah, yeah,
bands.
yeah,
We
yeah.
had one of the leading bands in
Yeah,
Dominica
no,
in that
definitely, man.
village
Yeah.
for more than 2 decades. And today we have to import bands to play at any event. We think that it's really, it's not a good thing. So we have established a foundation. We have approached government to get a building. We want to have a center of our own because, as I say, we said earlier on, the way we do things today is different from the way we used to do it 50 years ago. So 50 years ago, guys would meet and play and
In a
practice
garage
anywhere.
or anywhere. Yeah.
Yes, you're not going to get that to happen like that. So what we want to do is to establish a center, an art center in the community. And so we have made an approach to the government to list a building in the community for that purpose. And
Wow. So
we
you have
hope.
identified a building that
Oh
would
yes, we have
appropriate.
done that. I have done all the technical work.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
have gone do all the technical work, all the preparatory work, and so I'm just waiting to get some response to that. I say we have established the foundation. Um, we have actually started to get donations of instruments. So we have 10 box guitars. We have done some training with young people. So that is something that is dear to me. I really want to see that happen for us to revive the music. And once we get the music side of things going, then we can look at other aspects of
and
the
get some
arts.
motivation. We not to
Yes,
well, you can start by reviving Mauro. You get the guys from Mauro.
they not there. I think are they
They
there?
hit they hit the stage and they made a splash.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But there's still a lot of talent in the community, man,
I'm
that
sure.
we can mobilize. So that's one thing. The second thing is, I was saying to you backstage, we are establishing a foundation. People of like minds like myself, people of my age group, and I hope we can bring in some young people. So we are trying to create a charitable trust to support and to give support to local causes like scholarships, like healthcare, and so on. And that is in the works now. We've given one scholarship to a young person last year. The scholarship was named in the honor and the memory of Ashraf Brown Simon, who passed
Mm,
away last year.
bandy
And so,
legs, yeah.
yes, and we are planning to do it again this year. We are hoping to give another scholarship this year. And so we want to continue that part of it. So the foundation really is going to be an important platform for us to push community development action in Maho. And generally, I want to support things in the community now. I have a little more time because I have much more free time than before. So I am much more available than I was, 30 years ago. So I'm looking at some other stuff in the community, some community development stuff. So, for example, we need to mobilize the talent, the business talent that we have. There are lots of businesses that we have in Maho and Masak, and what they need is just some little support. Whether it be some hand holding to do proper bookkeeping, use of technology, access to finance and capital. If they need equipment and so on. So if we can mobilize that element of the development of the community. So I talk about arts, I talk about culture and so on, but we think it's also important for us to create wealth as well. You
Yes.
know, so intergenerational wealth is an important part of building. Intergenerational wealth is an important part of building any society, building any economy, building any country. But it has to be organized. It has to be organized, particularly in small societies. So whether you create a bureau or a chamber or whatever it is, I mean, many countries have chambers of commerce or chamber of businesses or whatever you call it. So things like that. So I that is something that I am looking to help to inspire and to build and to see how we can support that going forward. So whether they need whatever support they need, we can help identify the support. Some of us have skills in writing proposals to interact with donors or partners that can help and so on. So those kinds of things that is going to be important. I've just done some work with the village council. I had the village council do a strategic plan. So we had a whole plan exercise with a large number of local community residents. That was a week ago. And it was amazing the kinds of ideas that is coming from. So we looked at things like, health and sanitation. We look at economic development. We look at education and training. We look at sports and culture, governance. And we have all of that. And we are not able to harness that energy, harness that talent. So I was able to help the council to bring forward some of those ideas. And the next step is now to build a plan and to get the council, to help the council now implement the plan. Because one thing to build a plan, next thing is to be able to implement
implementation. Yeah.
Yes.
I think one of the biggest resources that you are currently have in Mao is Miss Dublin, Jodie Dublin,
Yes.
and her business.
Yes.
She has
But
been able to.
she doesn't operate from Mao. She's Momasa.
She's more master, called Mao Master, right?
Yes. Yeah.
She's been
So
able.
that's what the big point. We want to bring all of these people together.
Exactly.
It's not about Maho or Masak, separate.
Exactly. It's part of the resource of the community.
That's
because
right.
I watch her and she's been able to raise herself and her
Oh,
business
yes.
not only from that community, not only nationally,
Global,
but
regionally.
certainly regionally, and she's even broaching on the international market. So
Yeah.
she's somebody that can, and she's young and she's vibrant and she uses the technology, she's using the media, and so she has a lot to offer in terms
Yeah. I
of
mean, we
her
also have
story and so on.
Dr. Shaila Esprit,
Yeah,
who's a champion working with young people in the technology field. She's
Yeah.
now at Global Campus and Mona. How do we utilize these people? How do we bring the skills to bear to change, to transform our communities? So that is a challenge going forward.
Yeah,
How do we harness this kind of resources?
yeah.
Rather than seeing that you go for cycles. We go for cycles,
Yeah.
people that just living.
Yeah.
And we don't care what the consequences are. No, we have to be much more deliberate at
More deliberate planning and execution.
Yes.
All right.
That's right.
So I have indulged your time for 90 minutes and you promised me an hour.
Yeah.
Whatever else, is there something that we wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to, or I'm inviting you to give closing remarks, really.
Well, I mean, for me, the critical thing is to understand our place in the world at this time, in this particular moment, as Dominicans, as Caribbean people. Yeah, there are some important things that we have to look at. The challenge that we face currently in terms of the climate crisis that impacts us. We see it on a regular basis and what it does, what it has been doing to us. So we have to be much more mindful of that and to be organized around that to build a movement to deal with the climate crisis. So that's one thing. The second thing is, of course, our young people. We have to look at how to nurture and to build the energies, the talents of our young people, and how we can get them to be much more productive, much more engaged.
Mm-hmm.
We have to engage our young people more. We cannot wait for them to come, because it's not going to happen. We have to engage them. We have to bring them into the fold. So the young people that's another area we have to focus on more attention on. So let's say investment in the arts and culture, investment in new education, and it may be that it's not just in the traditional curriculum, that we have to look at new things in the curriculum to get young people much more excited, particularly our boys in school and in education. Um, the economy, the economy, the economy, the economy. Remember this guy say the economy is a what he said? James Cargill. So the economy is something that we have to pay close attention to. What kind of economy that we want to build for Dominica and the Caribbean and the world? The reality is the as I said earlier, the global economy has shifted more towards services, more towards knowledge. Yes, agriculture has to be a critical part of the national economy, the regional economy, because for food security and for value and to help value added, we have to be much more engaged in a deliberate effort to build an agricultural sector that makes sense for us, that produces for us. But we also be mindful where we have to focus attention on to create opportunities for young people, to create wealth, to ensure that when we send young people to study, that they can come back. Because if we do not have the opportunities for them, they're not going to come back. Because the old industries, the traditional sectors, not going to attract them. So we have to create and build new sectors and attract them to those new areas that can see them bring to the fore their energies, their innovativeness, and so on. So the economy is critical for us to look at. So how we deal with that. So tourism and services. So we as a country, we have a lot to offer to the world. Tourism is vital for our survival because Dominica is unique in many ways, and our tourism industry, we haven't begun to touch the surface as yet. There's so much we can do with tourism, in terms of heritage tourism, in terms of community-based tourism. We see in the Carinago territory, there's a lot that we can do. We have health and wellness, and of course our adventure tourism, our romance and weddings, and festivals and carnivals. We talked about carnivals earlier on, and so on. So tourism is going to be an important sector moving forward. And so we have to get people to think of tourism in a new light, because too often people see tourism as a disruptor to the other. People think that tourism is seen as a preference to other sectors, but that is just the reality. People want to experience what we offer in the Caribbean and in Dominica. And in Dominica's case, because we are unique, we offer visitors something that is different. So tourism is going to be vital for our survival later on. Technology. We have to build the capacity of our young and even middle-aged people in terms of technology. So we have to be much more adept to using technology. Those of us who are older, maybe we'll still struggle, but I think it is important that going forward that we look at how we infuse the knowledge and understanding of the use of technology in everything that we do. So for example, in agriculture, our farmers shouldn't be hustling to go to Roseau to find out if they can get a deal with Fresh Markets or anybody else. They should be online or they should be connected to the market to know what is
in real time. Yeah.
So that is something that we have to look. We have to do a better job of. So creating e-commerce platforms, so that people can get paid easier and faster and so on. So that is an important part of what we have to go forward. And of course, social services, health and wellness. We know that it's critical. People live longer now, so old age brings challenges, NCDs, cancers, all different kinds of illnesses. And so we have to be able to take care of our elderly community. So we have to build capacity, invest more in homes, in recreational facilities for our elderly folks, and so on. So in a sense, it is really looking at development in a new way, in a holistic way going forward. That is for us critical as a country, as a society, and as a region, because a lot of these things, Dominica alone cannot, will not be able to achieve that. So that is why, the functioning and the operation of the OECS, of CARICOM, of the Organization of American States, so the hemispheric and regional bodies are critical in partnering with us, in working with us to solve some of these problems. So we cannot solve the climate crisis on our own. What we can do, though, is offer our advice, offer our own experiences on some of many of these issues. We can bring to the tables our years of experience, our knowledge and understanding. But in many of these cases, we require collaboration and partnership. And on the global and international front, yeah, it is important for us to look at the global south and new arrangements in terms of trade, in terms of tourism, in terms of education and educational opportunities, in terms of diplomatic engagement. Of course, it doesn't mean that we neglect our traditional partners. The United States is always going to be a critical partner for us. Canada, the United Kingdom,
UK.
European Union, and to take advantage of opportunities that are available to us as well. Because I see somebody put on the chat that we have had trade agreements with the European Union, the EPA, and we haven't taken full advantage of opportunities there.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So again, we have to be much more proactive and much more engaged in those things, and that's what's going to require more skilled diplomats, more skilled technicians to deal on some of these complex and myriad issues. So it's a lot, but I think we have the capacity. I think we have what is required is the will, the drive, the determination to be able to get to all of these things.
The creativity to
The
understand
creativity.
to understand and communicate the value. I
Yeah.
think that's a good place to start.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And so, I mean, we scratched the surface.
Yes.
there's a there's a lot more to talk about. I
Oh
think there's
yes.
some areas where
Yeah.
we can collaborate.
Yeah.
I really appreciate Mr. Geese for recommending you as a guest on the program, because I think we had a wonderful conversation. We almost did 2 hours and not even realizing
Yeah.
that the time had flown by
Yes.
so quickly. So I want to appreciate you and to tell you thank you so much for the long service that you've provided, for the way you share willingly your expertise, not only on this program but throughout your entire career, and from the energy that you demonstrated. There's a lot more where that came from, and so we wish you continued blessings so you can continue to bless the folks that come into your orbit, um, and we look forward to more great things. All the best with the Alwyn Woolley Foundation. Definitely all the best with the St. Mary's Academy alumni
Yes.
reunion from October 11th to the 18th, and the wonderful initiatives that you're taking with your folks from Maho. We wish you guys absolutely all the best and great success in those endeavors. And I want to say thank you again for taking the time to spend the time with us and to shed light on quite a few areas. So thank you so much.
Thank you. The pleasure was mine.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely a wonderful
Yes.
conversation, folks. I did promise you that this was going to be a wonderful conversation that we had on tap with you with my guest, Mr. Sobers Esprit. He's talking about these things so fluently. It's part of his fiber, part of his DNA, because he's done it for so long. That community involvement, that expertise in culture, in carnival, in the arts, and so on. And he's thinking, and he made some really great points. And the one that I really want to highlight is his point about value, really value. And as I said, sometimes the signals are sent, and I don't think it's deliberately intended that way. But like for example, we see a lot of construction that goes on maybe on our sporting fields that sort of hampers our young people being able to use full utilization of those fields. We would like to see an advice where instead of building unrelated stuff on a playing field, that we build bleachers or we build changing rooms, or the kind of thing that would encourage our young people to participate in sports and to demonstrate the value that we place on the arts and the sports. And I think it's more a matter of what Mr. Esprit said tonight. It's We have to recognize the value of it, not only the traditional value in terms of arts and culture, contributing to a more pleasant way of life and a quality of life, but in itself, those industry has grown into multi-trillion dollar industry, so they can form a really wonderful part of our GDP and our structure. So I want to thank you for staying with us for the night, for the hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. I think it was well worth your time. I don't think anybody was bored with this conversation. We covered a lot of ground, but and your full participation from all of you in the audience. We really appreciate that as well. Mr. Alvin Thomas, you led to the party, and as a grammar school boy, I have a different definition for SMA. But being that Mr. Sobers is our guest tonight, my honored guest, I'm going to agree with you and say SMA is for the smartest men around. Welcome, Alvin. Um, those of you from Castle Bruce, remember, or from Dominica in general, remember the Castle Bruce family and friends reunion is fastly approaching. It's from August 10th to the 17th for a tremendous slate of activities going on there. You go on to the Facebook page. There's a Facebook page, Castle Bruce Reunion 2025. Get more information on that. Also, we would encourage you to register while you're there. Tickets, early bird tickets, well, it's no longer early bird, but we're extending the time to July 15th. You can get tickets for a week-long pass for the Castle Bruce reunion at islandeventtickets.com, islandeventtickets.com. We also encourage you to just make a donation, make a contribution to help defray some of the cost for that. So, folks, I want to say good night. If you celebrated your birthday, happy anniversary. Congratulations on your graduation. Those of you who lost loved ones, we have some in the family, Italian family and the personal family who lost folks. Condolences to you as well. One of the stalwarts in the community, I worked with him while I worked at DCP. Um, we want to say condolences to his family. Maroni, we call him Ellen. I remember him as Ellen Lambert Maroni, passed away recently. So condolences to the family on that. Um, Very wonderful gentleman. Never saw him without a smile on his face. And really, as I said, we worked together for a couple of years while I worked at the Dominica Coconut Products. And so our hats go out to his family and the other folks who lost loved ones in the recent period as well. We wish you strength and grace. So, folks, let's do this again next week, Wednesday, for another episode of This Week in Interview. And thank you to you, everyone in there, for staying through, and also my team, the team that helps to put this together, Sam, Ella, and everybody else at TDN. Thank you so much, and good night.